In a luxurious mansion, miles away from the cold streets of the city, a billionaire lives a life most people only dream of. His days are filled with meetings, expensive lunches, and travel to places others only see in magazines. He's surrounded by wealth, fast cars, designer clothes, and a life of comfort. His mansion is spotless, filled with beautiful things, and every need is taken care of. Yet, as he sits alone in his office late one evening, there's a growing emptiness inside him. Despite all the success, something is missing. The billionaire has everything money can buy, but he's come to realize that none of it fills the hole in his heart. There's an overwhelming sense of loneliness that even his wealth can't soothe. His life revolves around work and luxury, but he can't help but feel disconnected from the world around him. It's as though he's been living in a bubble, unaware of the struggles faced by others. As the days pass, he begins to wonder what life is really about. What's the purpose of it all? One cold afternoon, while walking through the city on business, something catches his eye. A family. A homeless family, sitting on the sidewalk. The mother holds her children close, trying to shield them from the bitter chill. The father, weak and sickly, rests against a wall. The family seems out of place in this city of gold, and yet, they are a part of it. The billionaire's heart stirs with something he hasn't felt in a long time: compassion. The family is hard to miss. Their ragged clothes, worn and tattered, stand out against the bright city lights. The mother, young but tired, holds her children tightly, shielding them from the cold wind that bites at their skin. Her face is drawn with exhaustion, but there's a certain calm in her eyes. Her children, two young kids, barely old enough to understand the full weight of their situation, sit beside her, trying to stay warm, their eyes filled with uncertainty. The father, once strong and full of life, now looks frail and broken. His clothes too are torn and dirty. He leans against a brick wall, his body shaking from the cold and the illness that has taken hold of him. He's too weak to stand, and his eyes are glassy, as if he's lost the strength to fight. The father's hands, once capable of doing hard work, now tremble as they rest in his lap. The children, though quiet, seem to cling to each other, their small faces buried into their mother's side. They don't ask for much, just a few crumbs to eat, a small moment of warmth, a sense of safety. But the harsh reality of their situation is clear. They are hungry, cold, and homeless, with no place to call their own. The mother looks up at the passing crowd, her gaze distant, yet hopeful. She watches as people walk by, oblivious to her family's struggle. Every now and then, a kind soul might offer a few coins or a meal, but it's never enough. The streets have become their home, and they've learned to survive as best as they can, day by day. But despite it all, there's a quiet strength in the family. Despite their circumstances, the mother's protective nature never falters. She smiles at her children, even when there's little to smile about. Her focus is on their well-being, and she holds on to the hope that one day, things might get better. The billionaire, watching from a distance, is moved by what he sees. There's something about the way the family sticks together, the bond between them, that strikes him deeply. He knows he can't just keep walking past them. The billionaire hesitates for a moment, unsure of what to do. He's never been one to stop for something like this, too caught up in his own world of meetings and deals. But something about this family stops him in his tracks. The way they sit together, holding on to each other for warmth, speaks to him in a way he didn't expect. He takes a deep breath and approaches them. "Excuse me," he says, his voice gentle but unsure. The mother looks up, surprised to see a man like him standing there. For a moment, neither of them speaks. Her eyes scan him, taking in his expensive suit and polished shoes, unsure of why someone like him would even notice them. I saw you sitting here," the billionaire continues, fumbling for the right words. "I just wanted to offer you some help. Can I buy you something to eat? Or maybe give you a place to stay for the night?" The mother's eyes widen. It's hard to believe. People don't often offer help, let alone someone with so much wealth. She looks at her children, unsure of what to say. She's used to rejection and disappointment, but this feels different. I don't know," she says quietly. "Why would you want to help us?" The billionaire gives her a soft smile, his gaze sincere. "Because no one should have to live like this. I can't stand to see people struggling. Let me help." After a long pause, she nods, her voice barely above a whisper. Okay. Thank you. The billionaire offers a hand to the family, leading them to a nearby restaurant where they can finally have a warm meal. It's not much, but it's a start. A moment of kindness in a world that's too often cold. The next morning, the family wakes up in a clean, warm hotel room. It's a small thing, but to them, it feels like luxury. The children, who are used to the cold concrete of the streets, can't believe they're sleeping in a real bed. The sheets are soft, the pillows fluffy, and for a few hours, they forget about the hunger and fear they've lived with for so long. The mother, tired but relieved, gets up to check on her husband. He's still sleeping, but his breathing is shallow, a reminder of the illness that has taken over his body. The medicine she was able to get for him yesterday seems to have helped, but his condition is still fragile. She sits quietly by his side, her fingers gently brushing his hair as she watches him rest. Meanwhile, the children wake up with excitement. They've never seen so much food on a table before. The billionaire has arranged for a breakfast spread: eggs, toast, fruit, and juice. The kids giggle as they sit down, eager to eat, but they're also careful not to overeat. They're not used to having this much at once. After breakfast, the billionaire returns to check on them. He sits with the family for a while, talking with the children, asking them about their lives. They're shy at first, unsure of how to speak to someone like him, but his kind nature soon puts them at ease. They laugh, telling him about their favorite cartoons, and the little girl shows him a drawing she made of their family, sitting together in a heart. The father stirs, waking up to find himself in a new place, safe and cared for. His eyes meet the billionaire's, and for a moment, he doesn't know what to say. He feels a wave of shame, wondering how someone like him ended up in such a situation. But the billionaire just smiles and tells him, "Take your time. You don't have to worry about anything today." For the first time in what feels like forever, the family begins to feel a sense of relief. They're not out of the woods yet. But this day marks the first step in what could be a new beginning. As the day unfolds, the billionaire spends more time with the family, learning about their lives. He's struck by how resilient they are. Despite the harshness they've faced, there's a quiet dignity in the way they carry themselves. The mother, though weary, speaks with a sense of strength and determination. The billionaire sits beside her as they talk, asking her how they ended up on the streets. She hesitates at first, unsure of whether she should share the painful truth with someone like him. But there's something about his kindness, his genuine desire to help, that makes her feel like she can open up. "Before all this," she begins softly, "we were a family like anyone else. We had a home, a steady job, everything was fine." She pauses, her eyes wandering to the children who are quietly playing in the corner of the room. A smile crosses her face as she watches them, but it's a sad smile. "Then everything changed," she continues. "My husband lost his job. It wasn't his fault, really. The company he worked for shut down, and with it, we lost our income. We tried to make do, but things got harder. The bills piled up. We couldn't keep up." The billionaire listens intently, his heart aching as he imagines how difficult their lives must have been. But the mother isn't done yet. "We thought we could manage," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. "But then my husband got sick." She looks at him, and the billionaire follows her gaze. The father is sitting by the window, staring out at the city, lost in thought. "The doctors say it's terminal," she confesses, her voice breaking. "There's nothing they can do. We've been trying to keep him comfortable, but it's hard." The billionaire feels a lump form in his throat. He can't imagine the weight of what they've been through, the pain of watching someone you love suffer and knowing there's no way to stop it. "I didn't want anyone to know," she says, wiping away a tear. "We didn't want people to pity us." The billionaire, moved beyond words, takes a deep breath. He never could have imagined the depth of their struggle, and it hits him harder than anything else. The mother's voice shakes as she continues to speak, revealing more of the pain they've been hiding for so long. The billionaire listens in silence, his heart heavy with sorrow for the family. "There's more," she says, her eyes downcast. "It's not just the job loss or the sickness, it's the fear. Every day we've had to make choices. Do we pay for food, or do we try to keep a roof over our heads? Do we treat his illness, Or do we save what little we have left for the kids? The tears that she's been holding back start to fall. It's a quiet, private grief, but the weight of it is impossible to ignore. We've been hiding the truth from everyone, even from each other sometimes. We didn't want to burden anyone with our problems. But it's so hard, and we've lost so much. I don't know what to do anymore. The billionaire sits there stunned. He had thought they were just another family struggling to make ends meet. He didn't know it was this dire. But now, he understands. The struggle they've faced is far more than just being homeless. It's the emotional weight of losing everything, piece by piece, while trying to stay strong for the ones you love. She wipes her eyes, looking at her husband, who's still sitting in the corner, unaware of the full extent of what's been said. I keep telling myself it'll be okay. But sometimes I don't know if I can keep pretending like everything will be fine. Her voice falters as she adds, and I don't want my kids to grow up thinking that this is all life has to offer. I want them to have a future, a real future. The billionaire, moved by her words, feels a wave of guilt wash over him. He's never had to face anything like this. He's always had the luxury of choices, of options. But here they are, a family with so little, and yet they've been holding on to what matters most, their love for each other. As he looks at the mother, he realizes just how much strength it takes to live through something like this, to face a future full of uncertainty and still keep going. The billionaire sits there, feeling like the ground beneath him has been swept away. The weight of the mother's words hits him harder than he expected. He's always been quick to make decisions, always believed that money could solve any problem, but now he realizes how wrong he's been. His mind races, and for the first time, he feels completely out of his depth. How could he have been so blind? He spent years focusing on his empire, his success, and all the while, families like this have been suffering just to survive. As he listens to the mother's story, his thoughts shift. It's not just about money. It's about the broken system that failed them. The job loss, the illness, the lack of support. What would have happened if they had someone to lean on? Someone who understood their struggles. He can't help but feel a sense of guilt. He's had the luxury of security, while they've been struggling to hold on. He watches the family, their eyes filled with hope and fear in equal measure. They've trusted him, and yet he feels unworthy of that trust. How can he make things right? How can he do more than just offer a temporary fix? "I'm sorry," he says quietly, almost to himself. "I never realized how much you've been going through. I wish I could have done more sooner." The billionaire's eyes meet the mother's, and for the first time he doesn't feel like a man with all the answers. He feels like a man who has a lot to learn. But in that moment, he knows he has to do something. He can't just walk away. The billionaire doesn't waste any time. He knows now that he can't just offer temporary help and walk away. The family needs more than a few days of kindness. They need stability. They need a future, not just a fleeting moment of relief. The first thing he does is arrange for the best possible medical care for the father. He finds a top specialist and arranges for immediate treatment. The doctor is optimistic that with the right care, the father might have more time, though the illness can't be fully cured. The billionaire is determined to make sure they don't have to worry about the cost of the medical bills. He will cover everything. Next, he arranges for a permanent place for the family to live. A real home, not a temporary shelter or a hotel room. The family is stunned when they're shown the house, simple yet warm and welcoming, with enough space for everyone. It's a fresh start, a place they can finally call their own. The mother and father look at each other, speechless, overwhelmed by the gift they've been given. The children run through the rooms, laughing, their faces full of wonder. But the billionaire doesn't stop there. He helps the mother start a small business, something she's always dreamed of, but never had the chance to pursue. With a little guidance, she opens a small cafe, where she can work and take care of her family. The business grows slowly at first, but with time, it flourishes. The family's life begins to change. They no longer live in fear of the next meal or the next day on the streets. They are building a future together. The children are enrolled in school, excited about what lies ahead. The father, though still weak, spends more time with his family, grateful for the chance to watch his children grow up. And through it all, the billionaire stays in touch. He doesn't expect anything in return. His heart is full, just seeing their lives transform. It's not just about the money. It's about giving them a chance at a new beginning.